Hey, good afternoon. This is our evening show, and I'm here with the Tell It Like It Is channel and with Rodney. This, of course, is the logical conclusion. And today we're going to have a conversation about looking at African Americans as a tribe versus or juxtapose the ADOS movement, which is the American Descendants of Slaves hashtag that seemed to start just a few weeks ago, but I'm pretty sure this is something that has been in a lot of people's hearts for a long time. Um, I'll start with my 2 cents, and then I'm going to hand it over to Rodney so he can give his thoughts, and then we'll go to Dave. Um, so I actually was going to do the African Americans as a tribe video about 2 weeks ago. And the same evening that I was going to do that call is the first time I started to see these videos in regards to the ADOS, and not really wanting to confuse the two. I went ahead and let the ADOS hashtag kind of rile up. Didn't know how long that would last. And then I wanted to, at this time, come out after I've assessed the ADOS movement just a little bit. And let's juxtapose the video that I was going to do against what this ADOS movement seems to be. So I look at African Americans like we are our own specific tribe. You know, you have the 12 tribes of Israel that were scattered across the world. And not saying that that's who or what we are, but I would say that we have a very common experience, which is closely linked to those African Americans in South America and African Americans in the Caribbean. And yeah, they're all African Americans because these are the Americas. It's also closely linked to the Africans that went into the Middle East and the Africans that went into Southwest Asia. So any African that was enslaved at some time, and you have your internal slaves also. You have slaves that went north, east, and west. So in all of those, we all have a very common experience of being enslaved. You also had slaves on the continent. You also had colonization. Us not knowing our individual tribes for sure, we became more of an amalgamation of all types of West African tribes, right? Which was systematically kind of all those different knowledges, cultures were systematically kind of wiped out individually, but we were able to hold vestiges of certain common African culture. So that's what I think looking at us as a tribe should be more like we're ready to participate with Africans. So if I go back over to Africa, I would want to talk to people who have a common experience. I want to talk to everybody. I want to do business with everybody, but you need to talk to people who have common experiences, common backgrounds, so you don't, lose yourself. You don't forget who you are. I think we have a right to the land of Africa. I think we have an affinity to Africa, whether we realize it at this point or not. And I think Africans and Africa has an affinity to us. So I like that. I like going in and saying, okay, we can together as a group go over and take claim to our birthright. What I don't like, and this is what I kind of understand from the African descendants of slaves hashtag or American descendants of slaves hashtag, it almost is looking at resources from a sense of poverty, saying, okay, we don't want anybody else to come in and lay claim to what we built here in America or what we've suffered for here in America. And in reality, if somebody comes back over, somebody comes over from Africa to America and they get a job, they're not taking that job away from an African American. because when it comes to resources like jobs and money, a very quietest kept secret is all that shit is limitless, man. There is no set amount of money for people to get. They don't stop printing money, and there is no set amount of jobs for people to take because there's always another job. You can make your own jobs, and then what kind of jobs are they taking? That's all I'm going to say. I think that's a good opening. You kind of see where I'm coming from, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Rodney.
All right. And I'm probably gonna sound like I'm playing the center in this, but I think that's a beautiful concept, beautiful goal. It's a beautiful hope to think of, African American people or even any of the diaspora as a tribe. But I think the problem is due to the nature of the slavery that we've gone through, and there's a guy I can't remember his first name, his last name was Lynch. The systematic destruction of the family and of trust in the Black culture, I think, is kind of what's going to cause us not to move back as a full tribe, maybe as smaller families or groups, because I think there is a problem with trust in the Black community, especially when it comes to big movements. I mean, it would be great if we could act as a tribe, but to me, a tribe is not individualistic, right? A tribe is you have a chief, you have warriors. They might have small goals, but in reality, to them, the tribe is worth more than their individual lives. I mean, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I think of when I think of a tribe. I think the United States lifestyle, individualistic. Yeah, people care about other people, and they do want to try and help other people out, but the whole not even Republican, the whole capitalistic society is based on individual achievement, individual goals, individual decisions, and then they decide to help other people, right? So it's fundamentally, it sounds beautiful, but fundamentally, I think it would be something you can't really just do without a plan. It's not going to just happen. It's something that has to be orchestrated and carried out. I mean, I'm not even going to say it's impossible. I think it's possible. It's quite possible, but to undo all the negative mindset that we've had over the years, and I'm not just talking. I'm speaking from my own experience, but I'm sure there's other people out there who are kind of like me that have seen, situations and understand how the families have been torn apart in a lot of the Black community. Slavery before, I think I read somewhere in Thomas, so I can't remember his name. I don't even want to start messing with the name, but the guy you turned me on to, actually, Antoine. There was slavery before. We weren't the first slaves. There was Egyptian slaves, all these other. There was slavery throughout history of the U.S., history of the world. But even the slaves, up until that point where we were slaves, were allowed to have families, right? They had families. They worked in servitude, but they still had their family units, their organizations, and they might even get promoted up into the house of the master so that they can become the master at some point. So the way they did the slavery with us was almost like genocide. It was almost like a genocide. But yeah, it would be great if we could pull it together. I would love to see that. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it right now.
What do you think about the African descendants of slave hashtag or American descendants of slave hashtag? I don't know. Are you tracking that?
I'm not really tracking it, but I mean, I don't see what it was supposed to do. I don't understand what it's supposed to do yet.
Okay, it's more so like people being kind of separatists. They want to separate themselves from other minority groups, and in particular Africans, because they feel as if Africans are coming to America and reaping the benefits that American Blacks have suffered for.
I think Africans that come to the U.S. are dealing with the same racism that we deal with. Actually, until they open their mouth and speak with an African accent, they look at them like they're Black. So I mean, yeah, it's I do like the fact to be a little bit separate, so that there is a difference between an African American that's born in Africa or African American that just actually they shouldn't even be called African Americans. They should be called Nigerian Americans or Kenyan Americans or wherever they came from, and that way that would separate us. And then African Americans just mean you don't know. You came somewhere from the continent, you have no clue. I mean, so that's, a way to actually separate us. So yeah, realistically, man, like I'm because we've been having these discussions, I've been thinking more about Africa. I've been like kind of what would it take to get not just me, but to get a lot of black people to want to move to Africa in the U.S. because it sounds good. You watch Jamie Foxx comedy special, I think a few years back. Yeah, Africa, like it was really cool, and he made it sound really good. People were really interested, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be moving and get ready to do it because a lot of people, like I said, are living check to check. So if you live in check to check, that $1,000 flight, or even if it's $600, $500 flight to go somewhere and then take time off of work to do it, is going to be kind of rough. So yeah, we just gotta. The hashtag might be a good idea. I'm not gonna say yay or nay like it's a bad idea. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Dave, you up?
Yeah, so this organization that's, I guess, supposedly trying to disengage themselves from African people, I think is silly. Okay, if you want to separate yourself from other minority groups, that's fine. In fact, you don't have to separate yourself. We're already separate. We may join for the cause for other minority groups, but they don't support us with the same type of vigor. Not to say there are some whites and there are some others that do support us, but for the most part, it's just us. But when you talk about separating yourself from where our ancestors, from people who come from where our ancestors came from, I think is asinine. I think that there's power in numbers. I think that the Africa diaspora should appreciate the motherland and vice versa. And I think that we can get something out of that. That's just kind of my 2 cents about this organization.
Like,
what is that organization anyway? Who is that? Who wants to do that?
I don't know if it's a real African or if it's a real American organization. It sounds more like it's a hashtag, and we don't know where the hashtag came from. The hashtag could have came from a white person. Let's be honest. In order to be divisive or keep us divided.
Why you serious? Why you talking seriously? We got the CIA that we know got into Malcolm X's stuff and got into Martin Luther King stuff. Realistically, I mean, when I say in order to make things happen, you have to have a plan. You have to enact that plan. Organizations like the CIA, organizations like the FBI, they've been doing this for a long time. And not just because they want to do it. They've been told by the president or by whatever organization that runs them, hey, we need to affect this change.
So let's ask a question then. How do you feel, Rodney, about, let's take the NBA for example, right? Right now, the NBA may be, I don't know, 78, 80% black. Maybe three or four of those percentage points go to Africans from various African countries. How would you feel if maybe 10 or 15% were African?
Honestly, I wouldn't care. Like, it's basketball, man. Like, I don't care who's playing. If I'm in the game, the person across from me is gonna lose. And if I'm watching the game, my team is gonna win and they're gonna lose. Like, as long as there is a level playing field, I just want to see good basketball. I mean, I think, like, you look at the U.S., the basketball, the NBA is what? You said 70% black or something like that? And the U.S. is what, 80% white? I mean, how come there's not 80% white people in the NBA? I mean, I'm sure out of all those white people, there's probably quite a few that can dunk, probably quite a few that could be if they worked at it, if they had to work at it, they would be talented enough to make it to the NBA and even dominate some of the black people in there. Especially with all the supplements and shit, people be taking all types of crap nowadays to get to actually play at the level they're playing at, right? Why is that not happening? Because they don't have to risk their body for it. They don't have to like risk anything. And even if they did, the people are they really looking? Are the scouts even looking at white people to evaluate them to say, you know what, you could be in the NBA? I don't think they get looked at the same way, and I don't think that they have the desire for it the same way that we do.
All right. How about let me ask this question then, Dave. When it comes to Jamaicans versus Africans, do you think that one group might understand the American experience more than the other?
I think, I mean, Africans, they went through, Africans, they did go through colonialism or colonization. But I think Jamaicans may be able to appreciate our experience a little bit better because their experience is closer to ours. But yeah. I think to a certain extent, we all have gone through oppression by by white folks or by Europeans. And, you know, that single fact may allow for us to have some understanding of one another. But I would say Jamaicans probably can connect more with our experience.
Yeah, I feel like they're closer to us. I don't know why. Maybe because physically they are closer to us. But I feel like they speak English. You know, Jamaican is not a language. The language they really speak is English.
So do Africans.
Africans speak English, but they speak all like 9 different languages. Most Africans I've met in the past have spoken at least 3 languages. At least 3. So English might be something they learned and picked up. But Jamaicans, they speak English just like us. They call it patois, and they say it with a funny accent, but it's all English. They don't have a second, third, fourth language they know.
Right. It's true. And two, I'll say that South African. So I remember being in Ghana. I met this guy from South Africa while I was there. And for whatever reason, me and him really vibe, man. Like we were vibing like really, really close. And I think he kind of just got, he's like, oh, you're African American? You know, like, yeah. Like everybody was like, oh, you're black, you know, you're a Black American. Get that credit card out, you know, give me some of these dollars, you know, whatever. But it was all love. Like I got treated lovely. But when I met the South African guy who happened to be there also, he was working there. I mean, like for some reason, and I know what that reason was, we really, really clicked. You know, I think he just understood like the level of oppression that can be inflicted probably better than the Ghanaians did. You know, the Ghanaians were in an all-black country. He's from an all-black country, but it's about 20% others, and those others happen to be dominated. So,
right. Do you think it's that, or is it more of the fact that he had preconceived notions about you being a Black American, right? A certain perception is kind of pumped out there in the media. And the fact that you're coming from America, like, okay, this guy has money and I can have this type of expectation about who he is, so on and so forth. So let me go ahead and get close to him.
No, I mean, like, it was real.
Okay.
It was real.
Yeah. Plus, Antoine's always been kind of up on Africa and stuff anyway. So anybody from Africa, Antoine's going to feel kind of close to him. They're going to vibe. like, yo, man, you from Ghana? What? You from Liberia? What? All right, man, I'm from Chicago. Let's talk.
and also, do you think it's like a cultural difference as well? Like they're just kinder and more more warm to visitors than maybe us Americans?
They are. They're extremely, extremely warm, almost to the point where I said, damn, I know if you came to New York City, you came to Chicago, you would not get this type of welcome from us. And that's kind of embarrassing, man. Like, because when we go there, their arms are wide open. They'll take you into their home. They will feed you. They're not going to let you just sleep on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, you can go to Africa without a plan at all, and people, you can rest assured that people will take care of you when you get there. Is that type of?
That's beautiful, man. But I mean, you also got to think too. When we think about Africa, we all of a sudden get nervous when they start reaching out to us. You had a friend you met over there, and I think you came back, and he met me through Facebook, and he was reaching out to me about stuff. And like, yo, hey, how's it going? Like, always like I don't really know this dude like that. Like, I'm thinking like Nigerians, I've got so many emails from Nigerians, like talking about, oh, like, I'm over here, I need some money, yada yada. And then like I met this girl online, right?
Mm.
Beautiful girl. Never met her. It was kind of like a catfish thing for Nigeria, where like I would call. I literally went and got a phone card. I called this chick. The line was all jacked up. Like, hey, how you doing? Hello, baby. I love you. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I'm trying to talk to her, and she's like, wait a minute. And some guy picks up the phone. Yeah, you got to come. We need $500, man, so she can get on the plane and come see you. I'm like, dude, this is a scam. Like something's going on. So it's things like that. First, if they could stop that type of crap, I think that would go a long way in helping build that relationship, because it's hard to trust when it's that far away and you know there's corruption and they're doing stuff like that.
I mean,
I'm talking real, man.
There's gonna be scams wherever if you go there. Yeah, somebody will be running a scam, but I don't know. All I gotta say is I don't know how to explain it to you. Go.
I'll go. Eventually, I'm gonna go. I mean, just because the fact that you're. I'm gonna tell you, if you weren't my brother, man, if you weren't my brother, I might never have gone, never go to Africa, right? You're my brother. You gonna make sure I go. I got I'm talking about it all the time, every other week. Like eventually, I'm gonna go to Africa, probably this year sometime.
Yeah,
that's good, man. That's where your ancestors are from.
Have you been yet?
No, I haven't. I do plan on going though, man. I've always wanted to go too. And my mother, she went to South Africa and she came back and just expounded on her experience and stuff. And I'm like, man, I want to have that same experience. So,
but do you know what? I think sometimes to me, and this is just in my head, it's almost like it's not even real. Like who goes and buys a ticket to Africa? Like realistically, like you see people, okay, I'm gonna buy a ticket and go to Jamaica, take a cruise, right? Or I'm gonna go to France. Who goes to Africa? Like growing up as a child, I've never looked at the videos of the dusty kids and the flies and be like,
hold on, right, come on, man. Not on this channel, man.
I'm just being real. I'm being.
Yeah, but let's keep it simple because everybody watches this channel, and I don't want it to come off like you're laughing at Africans or something like that.
I'm not okay. Let me apologize then for that, because I'm not saying I'm laughing at Africans or nothing like that. I'm just talking about how twisted the media has kind of painted this to us growing up, to the point where you didn't even think like that growing up. I'm 43, so I've been seeing this type of crap since 1980, really. Well, I really started to the point where I was watching TV and stuff. You're watching TV, you see the white man, you see Superman. You see the black and white TV, you see the old love films, and then you see an African commercial about something, and then you see I've got a lot of that crap in my head. And maybe the younger kids nowadays in their 20s and 30s, maybe they didn't see all that. So it's almost like the thought of going to Africa.
But that's how you know they lied to you.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They lied to me. So it's almost unreal at this point to be like, man, I'm gonna go to Africa. It's like it just doesn't feel real, but I know eventually it will be. But you have to break that thought pattern. You got to understand those were lies, and you have to go back and change the way you think. And like I talked about earlier in the call this morning, changing the way you think, man, is hard. Like, could you imagine if somebody told you can't think about Africa and be happy about Africa anymore? Like, that's very hard to go internal and say, okay, what is wrong with the way I think?
That every day.
Why is it detrimental to my future, to the future of my children and stuff like that, the way I think, and then rearrange it and then stick to it. Like that's some deep stuff.
What I'm trying to say is, let's take Africa out of it for a moment. Let's just talk about African Americans, because this is about $8 African Americans, whatever else.
Yeah. This
is the struggle I have with dealing with African Americans, right? Is that not all, but some. You have different types of African Americans. You have some who are like super hotep, right? And you can't really, they're on this shit where everything is black, nothing white, and it's like super duper African. If you even say anything that doesn't sound like it's black, they're gonna say screw you, right? That's super hotep. Then you got normal hotep, you know, burning incense, wearing dashikis, and I can dig that. I like that. And then you got people like more so on my level. When I'm in corporate America, or I'm in, you know, I'm in what I'm in. I have to do what I'm doing. I'm not completely 100% fulfilled doing what I'm doing, but it's paying the bills. I'm going through what I'm going through right now, and everything is good. Life is good, but I know to make it better, I can reach back. Then you have another person who's just in that, but they're doing what I'm doing right now. They're in corporate America, but they have no designs on Africa. But if you talk to them about it, they're kind of open to it. And then it's everybody else, right? You have people who really could never go because like they're hoodlums, and you know they're living the life in the hood. You have people that are really kind of anti-black, not realizing that they're anti-black, right? Because they've internalized so much of what they've seen on television, so many of the bad news stories, they start to, in a way, dislike themselves. And then, of course, if they don't like themselves, they don't like Africa. You know, then you have some who seem like they're dealing with it, like you like yourself, but you've internalized so much. It's hard for you to really look at Africa and look at that in a positive way. So you have all these different gradations, but in order for us to move forward, I'm not waiting for them to like for some type of unity or whatever else. I want to do what's going to make me happy, but I need to meet up with other African Americans that are thinking the same way. And the only way I can really meet up with them is I'll meet them in Africa, because it's like we're so few and in between in America that if Africans really think that their gates are getting ready to get flooded by African Americans, you have nothing to worry about. It's like if some of us will show up, and you know, like in Ghana's been hot for how many years? And how many African Americans actually live there? Maybe like 10 to 30,000 African Americans. That's a drop in the bucket when it comes to, you know, the 30 million Ghanaians that are over there. So it's not like they have to worry about African Americans breaking the doors down to get back to Africa. Right. But it's frustrating to me because, yeah, I do realize, right? I saw the exact same cartoons that you saw. And they were still showing these cartoons in the 80s with the Africans with the rings in the nose and the big red lips. You know, it was coming on TBS. If you used to watch Tom and Jerry, they always had the big, fat, black mammy maid who would beat Tom over the head. They just took that shit off the air like a few years ago. You always saw the, you know, when Ethiopia was going through its trials back in the 80s, where it was live Africa, Feed Africa, whatever else. We saw those type of videos coming on in the middle of the night on American television until very recently. And it was either a starving African child or a starving child from some South American country like Guatemala or something like that. Right. You know, they never would show the poverty of America. They will only show the poverty of Africa. So the only way I can see that we could really fix that is we have to just watch. We have to monitor what we watch. We have to be very decisive on what we're watching so we can see the good things of Africa. There's a million videos on YouTube that say the Africa they never show you on television. Okay, and it's all beautiful. And you're like, okay, well, maybe they've told a lie. Why would they tell that lie? They're telling that lie because they are there enjoying Africa and telling Africans about what African Americans are like. And they do that through pumping out hip hop music and say, okay, this is how African Americans behave. You see, you don't want to be like them. And then we're over here, we say, oh, we don't want to be like that because they're pumping out this view of Africa. They don't have to say don't like Africa because they know it's impossible to come into a black church and say, you know what, you African Americans are different, much different than Africans. So what they have to do is even pump out a bad image of Africa on television and in the media, or else they can just start an American descendants of slave hashtag. And I think, like, if you look at an atlas, if you look at a globe, if you read any type of you know, statistics about countries in Africa or whatever else, you can kind of figure out what country is headed in what direction. You can look at their population swings. You can look at their GDP. You can look at how much coastline they have, how many ports they have. There's so many stories to be told just through an encyclopedia or Wikipedia. Then you also have YouTube, right? You also have Nollywood now. I mean, it's so many different ways. If you don't know, you have African music that's all over the place. There's so many different ways to kind of tap into Africa and say, okay, oh, this is what's really going on. You have African news. Why do we choose to watch Fox News or CNN when we can watch CGTN or All Africa News and get that type of news? There's an election going on right now in Nigeria, but Americans don't know that. Most Black.
I think Liberia just had an election too.
Senegal.
You know what I think the issue is? I think that people are concerned with what's going on in their immediate environment. So when you start talking about Africa, it seems so far off, you know, and so distant. And also, given our current situation here in America and some of the struggles that we're still going through, it's hard for us to get out of that myopic type mindset or having that myopic type perspective on things. We got to open up our minds some. You know, I think that we're talented enough to handle the situations here in America and build a bridge between us and our brothers and sisters over in Africa. But yeah, it's trying to get people to, to realize.
And then too, like it's financial. That's a big part of it too, right? Most people in the U.S. are living in debt, and a trip to Africa is a vacation, right? Unless you have a business or some reason to go over there, it's a vacation. So if we have enough Black people who are well off enough to get out of debt to the point where they can, you know, afford to take a vacation and buy a ticket for not just them, because a lot of people aren't going to just go by themselves. It'll be like they're buying a ticket for themselves, maybe their wife, maybe their kids, and stuff like that, and actually go. I think that would be a good thing. There's ways to counter the negative. There's ways to counter the negative views that Africa is painted in our media, and it's by doing our own media. Yeah, you can take your time and research and watch something that somebody else put out there. You could dig through YouTube, but if there is an abundance of media that is positive, just like there's an abundance of media for everything else out there. Like if you got to dig through 90% to find the 10% of good stuff about Africa, then that might be a little bit too much work for some people. I mean, let's be real. I'm keeping it real. If there's 50% and 50%, there's more likely that people will say, you know what? That looks interesting. I might do something like that. That might be a goal I want to set up once I get out of debt, once I have my house paid off. Or maybe they might even start thinking, okay, I could sell this house and fly to Africa and live cheaper. Like you never know until we start giving people options and what to take into their brain. Like you can tell them, okay, you can tell them stop watching Pop TV, don't watch no sitcoms. You get on there and do YouTube and watch African stuff. But that's like telling your son to do his homework. Yeah, he's gonna do it while you're looking at him. As soon as you turn away, he might be interested in something else that he wants to look up, right?
Yeah, you can't force. I know it's impossible to force anybody to do anything. You have to inspire them to want to do it.
Exactly, and that's what this talk does. That's why I like talking like this, because this is one way to do it. And then I still keep thinking media is the best way. I watched that show Larry David. I think I told you guys about it earlier. The Netflix thing. I put it on the chat, but he talked to comedians.
The white dude, right?
From Africa, right? There's a show that I've never heard of, Malawala Nalawala or something like that. Everybody in Africa loved it. It was like a great show. Like they were all crazy about it, and it got destroyed because they blew up the station that they wanted to take over during the war. But just the fact that it reached so many people in that area during that time period lets me know that is a way to communicate to a lot of people. Like if you have something that's entertaining, people will grab to it. You can't just say it's for your own good. It's for the African people. You're a Black man. You should know it.
I don't think I'm ever going to try to sell it like that. And like it is because it's fun. It is because it's beautiful. I mean, if you've been someplace beautiful in the world, like I travel, I'm not saying that Africa is the only place to go. You have Brazil. Have you been? It's like if you go to Brazil, Brazil is beautiful, and people will talk about Brazil. They'll tell you how beautiful Brazil is, but they won't tell you how beautiful Africa is. And Africa is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, in spots than Rio de Janeiro or whatever else. But they don't want to tell you that, and that's the reason I want to say, or the question I want to ask is why, and we know why. We know why, because while you're not going there and they're able to separate you from your birthright, they are there and they're investing. They're putting NBAs over there. They're putting other types of businesses there. They're taking gold up out the land. I mean, you really have planes. Who was talking, the AU ambassador to the US? She said they have planes. All France, all these countries have big fucking airliners flying into the middle of the Congo, loading the planes up with diamonds and leaving. They have secret airstrips in the middle of these countries. You know, so it's like, while we're here complaining about small scale shit, we have not opened our eyes up to the big scale picture to say, okay, we can be wealthy. We can all be wealthy. You know, with our knowledge of how certain things operate and the resources that are there. And the biggest resource is a human resource. You have young people that are ready to work. So anything that you can imagine in your mind and want to build in your mind, you have a ready workforce that will help you to achieve that. You know, so I mean, that's all super attractive to me. To me, it's like, okay, if I could have a beautiful house up in the mountains with a view of the ocean and my own business, it's like, that's what I want. And that's what I want to go build for myself. That's the selfish part of me, for myself. But you can be selfish as long as whatever you're doing is going to help other people also at the same time. If you go there, man, and what will happen if you can go there and give 100 people jobs? That means you got 100 people that love you. They already loved you, but now they love you times 2 because you're over there doing work, putting work in. So that's it. And I think, like, if we think on that level, then that should get the right people will get excited. You know, and the people who don't think like that, then they weren't gonna, they were never gonna go in the first place. And they just have a very myopic and much smaller view of, you know, what's happening in their life here and dealing with the weather here and dealing with the issues here. And it's like, okay, I don't even have enough time to be frustrated with Black Lives Matter or whatever else. Like, that's good. That's playing its role. Some people want to get angry about trying to change a system that was never built for them in the first place. And then some people will say, you know what? I can make things a lot easier for myself if I just shift focus here to build something here where I have more of a base, where I have more resources, where I have more people who are going to treat me right anyway. Like, it's there. So it's not like do your homework. It's like, it's better over here. So why we focus so much? I'm not saying that everybody needs to go to Africa. I'm not even saying that we don't need to build here. I'm just saying that,
right. You know what? And I agree with you on that. And I think the fact that you say Africa is beautiful, we got to go. Africa is beautiful. It's beautiful, and you're putting it out there. That's cool. But then when you told me about that movie, Lionheart, and I actually clicked on it and I watched the movie. Now I've seen it, right? So you sitting here saying, okay, Africa's beautiful, go is good. That's one thing. But if you can point people to a place like a movie or something that's going to sit and hold their interest and kind of get their imagination going, I think that's powerful too.
Agreed.
Right? So maybe that's the way we could do it. Maybe we could talk about find more media like that. If we can't make that type of media right now, maybe we could find media like that that'll be worth watching. It'll make people want to, and maybe we could talk about that. Talk about some of the stuff in there that we see there. And the more you talk about that type of stuff, the more we create that type of stuff, the more buzz you create, you generate, the more I think you're going to see those type of people that you're talking about that are at your level, whether they're kind of at that diaspora or the hotep, but not Hotep Extreme, like nice Hotep, the cool Hotep. You'll find more people like that. Cause I think I like the structure that you have on this channel. I like the way we talk about things. I've seen you reach out to other channels and talk, some of the same stuff. That's good. But I always keep coming back to the media has to entertain and draw people in, right? But yeah, I mean, all of it to me would be great. I would love to have all the Black people in the U.S. act as a tribe or act as a family where if I open up a business, I know it's going to be successful because all the Black people in the neighborhood are going to come and support me. And I'm going to support all the Black people in the neighborhood when they have their businesses and they're doing things. But yeah, in the U.S., it's very hard to think like that, man. It's in Africa, you got no choice. Because Africa, everybody's Black for the most part. So yeah, a pretty good chance you're going to be. I'm not even going to say guaranteed success because I'm sure there are businesses there that fail.
Yeah,
but
people don't want to help each other because of tribes or whatever else. Everybody is Black, but then people find a different way to divide themselves.
Yeah. So with the tribes over there, that's another thing. If we go over there, we're not really a part of a tribe. We just have to that's when we have to create our own tribe over there. As far as like the African American tribe, we're AA. Remember the AA tribe?
Yeah, I think you don't even have to create it. I think when you come there and they're going to say, oh, you're African American, so you're like the other African Americans that are here. So I mean, like they will see us as a tribe, regardless. We're automatically going to be seen as a tribe because they're going to say, okay, these people are coming from here, and they might pull us in with Blacks from other areas too, like the Caribbean or UK.
What if I want to be a Watusi? Would I be allowed to like join, or do I have to? It's like a game.
Probably marry in, but I don't know if you could just join. Maybe, I don't know. They'll probably love you, Rodney.
I got tons of questions, man. I got more questions than answers.
Tutsis are Tutsis, and that's that was the whole Rwanda Tutsis versus Hutu. I don't think they actually they're even allowed to call themselves Tutsis anymore. So now it's like you go to Rwanda, everybody can only call themselves Rwandan. So because tribalism hurt them so much, and there's a backstory to that also, but because tribalism hurt Rwanda so much, they don't play it at all. And I think it's I don't know, like really me not being there, I don't know for sure, but it's listening to people, it sounds like a lot of the tribalism beefs are kind of dying down. It just depends on where you're at. I heard that Nigeria, because it's so big and there's so many different tribes, whatever else, yeah, they know tribes, but it's not like something where they're killing each other over tribes still. And
like a gang or something. It's not like a gang.
And who said that? That was I think Dynas Demir, Search for Uhuru. He was saying that it's the one place he went and he just felt like he was accepted by everybody, because it's like it's so many of them, especially like around Lagos. It's more of a New York where they really don't have enough time to focus on you. I would take it as being something that's a little bit more accepting New York City for Black people. If you go there, everybody looks like you, but they can't really, because there's so many people, they can't really focus on you.
Yeah.
That American guy, so they just have to get to know you, trust you a little bit, and then you're in. But this is me talking off of a video he did. So
all right.
It just depends on where we want to go, how we want to take it there. Yeah, so we're a tribe. Now, how do we build as a tribe? How do we kind of build relationships with other people, other tribes, other groups of people?
You got to have the chief reach out. The chief's supposed to talk to the relations. Well, actually, I don't even know. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that's how it would be. Like the chief would be responsible for reaching out and building treaties with other organizations.
Right.
But that's all me just thinking like an American.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
What was the question again?
How do we, as a tribe, then how do we build relationships with other tribes? If we call ourselves a tribe, do we build relationships tribe by tribe, or do we just go and try to just insert ourselves in Africa as a whole, as
I'm
a
gonna be
tribe?
honest. I don't like labeling ourselves as a tribe in reference to Africa. I prefer the title of us being a part of the African diaspora
All right,
because
fair.
we're all one. You know,
Yeah.
I know that our history is a little different given the circumstances, but we are all from the motherland. Our ancestors are from there, and I think it's a little divisive. So I think we should see everyone as Africans. Just that's my personal opinion.
Have you ever been at a table with I don't know, let's say just a group of people from different country, and maybe you're dating a girl. Let's say you're dating a girl. She's from Nigeria, and she speaks Hausa, and she's with all of her girlfriends at the table, and then there's you, and they start the conversation in English, um, but they very quickly switch the conversation to Hausa, and the conversation goes on in Hausa forever, and then every once in a while they stop and say, "Oh, let me tell them what's going on." Then she gives you an update. Am I the only one who's ever been in that situation?
I think so, man.
It's
But
nice to have somebody who, yeah, like we can go in and be super cool with everybody, but then when she goes to visit her family or she goes to visit her friends, and they get to talking, you realize, like, damn, man, like I don't know what they're talking about. And they're not talking about you, but you also know you don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it would be nice to have somebody there who you can talk to.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Like we exist in different cultures. We're here in this American culture. They're in their respective country in Africa within their respective tribe and things of that nature. So we
Yeah.
would have to unify as Black Americans and have one singular voice to communicate or to establish this relationship that we're talking about here. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I guess I was more so just getting at this idea of us being like a separate tribe, but in regards to what we're talking about here, yeah, it's gonna take some unity on our part. We need bright minds such as yours and other people who have the same interest in building this connection to sit down at a table and try to come up with an agenda or a plan that would be effective that we can execute to build the relationship.
No, I appreciate that. Both of y'all said something really nice about me in this podcast. Rodney said I had a good channel. You said I had a bright mind. Look, y'all got me blushing. So do you think there's anything that does, like, what do you think makes us unique as a group, Dave? And what do you think that the like-minded people that want to kind of contribute, what resources do you think we have to contribute? Like, what do we bring that is different than nobody else can really bring to the table?
Okay. And when you say what makes us unique as a group, you're speaking about you're saying Black Americans in general?
Black Americans in general, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've tapped into different industries here in America. The music industry, entertainment industry, and that's sports and music collectively. We're starting to break into other fields as well. Our numbers are increasing in the health industry, even in tech. The latest report that I saw, there was a slight bump. So I think we have skilled individuals and bright minds to offer, and we have some revenue as well, especially relative to how much money these different countries in Africa are bringing in. The issue is trying to get all of these talented folks and all our resources and trying to bring them together and put them into one pot and then delivering, a set of ideas or an agenda to execute over there. But I think those are some of I think we have a lot to offer. Yeah.
Rodney, same question to you. Like, what do you think we have to bring to the table? Those who want to bring something to the table, what do they have to bring?
Oh, man, I think we have a different outlook or a different perspective from people who maybe grew up in Africa. That even though they've seen some, maybe they've seen some discrimination and stuff like that the same way, but I think our American upbringing it gives us a different business perspective. Not saying it's better, but it's different. And maybe there's other ways we can capitalize on that. Then understanding media, there's ways we can use that. And like you said, the finances, man. If we can get our finances in order and put them together in a corporation, or understanding, a corporation where, think like Google, something as big as Google can go over there and do a lot. Like richest man in the world, can't remember his name, the guy who's CEO of Google. But if we can get that type of money together, even in a small corporation, bring it over there and grow it to that level, I think that type of understanding, we'll be able to bring that to the table.
Hey, those are all fair points. I'd say the same about the money. Yeah. Especially when it comes to, retirement, pensions, or just being able to get a large sum of money built over here. You can save a couple $100,000 and go there and really do a lot, especially if we pool our money together. But also, I think it's a certain type of quality that is there in Africa, but in the spots where that quality is not there. And I'm talking about just quality of service, quality of building. We have that eye to develop that further. Let's say if it's something like a grocery store. So I was talking to some people who had just came back from their white, I'm not going to say where they were at, white people. They were in Africa and they came back and they said, oh, you would have loved this grocery store. This grocery store, I'm telling you, it was just like a Western grocery store. Of course, it was owned by a British guy, but it was just like a Western grocery store. And I would have thought I was in Europe if it wasn't for all the people walking around in their colorful clothes. That's their view. One, if it's nice, then we built it. And two, it's a certain perspective. Like if I'm in Africa, I'm expecting to see Black people in colorful clothes. As a matter of fact, that's almost exciting to see Black people in colorful clothes. You see what I'm saying? So it's a different perspective where we can go there and do the same thing. Let's build it to a standard that we might see here in the United States. But then it's us who built it for us. It's us building it for us.
Boo-boo.
You know what? Another issue I see with us and us kind of effectively doing that is the fact that we haven't really ascertained any wealth. Like we have income, but as far as capital stored up to launch some of these grand ideas or these business plans, we don't have that. So I think we still have a lot of work to do here in this country as far as becoming owners, accumulating wealth, and then using our dollars in the most effective way. And one of those
exactly
is in Africa.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's real.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even say we have to get to the point where we've got everything together before we make a move, but just understanding that we need to do that's the key. Like Antoine, you say you got a plan. At a certain point, you're going to be able to retire. You're going to be able to go do it. That's the key. Like everybody doesn't have a plan like that. And even if we don't have a plan, like if we had something a business idea that can boom, that can make money, that we could say, okay, now this business is something, we got some capital, we can go do this. Like that's why I'm really looking at this media thing as a way to not only tell stories and kind of shape the minds of people, but at the same time to build some wealth. Like, and hopefully quickly, hopefully the media thing won't take forever to build wealth. Like you could be working in media, you could be a comedian, you could be an entertainer and not be successful and not make money. But, and matter of fact, they were talking to a couple guys over in Liberia or not Liberia, they were in Africa, they were comedians and they weren't making a lot of money, but they were really popular. So there's a way to turn that into something where these guys who are really funny and really, really popular are getting paid. There's got to be a way to make that happen. and generate that type of income, that type of wealth. You know, I'm trying to understand more about the business of it and how to make things like that happen. But yeah, we got a lot of work to do. That's just a really good point financially.
Yeah. So, David, you tell me we have to get our own financial house in order before we make a move, or what are you saying?
We got to have something that we can put up, because most Black Americans are dependent on their income just to get by, to pay their bills, and to live their day-to-day lives. Yes, we do have millionaires, and the most we've ever had in our history here in America, but those millionaires are on such an independent type wavelength, and they're not really about. Well, I can't speak for all of them, but at least that's my assumption based off what I see and what I hear. So we can't really front and use their dollars to kind of launch some of this stuff. Well, maybe we can. Maybe through the media we can convince them that this is a good idea and they should invest in it. But I don't think, like Rodney said, I don't think we have to arrive, but we just have to have more from a economic standpoint to put up to kind of launch some of the stuff that we're talking about.
All right. So let me ask you this. So I'm gonna switch the talk up just a little bit. What do you think? Do you guys think that African Americans, and I'm talking just about African Americans, not right now, not Caribbean, do you think that we have, or we can connect ourselves to a more powerful nation, more powerful tribe that stemmed from Africa?
I think a little more
where we came from. And with that, so if you could reach back and do some research and you found out that you were from a very powerful tribe in Africa that was very intelligent and pretty much ran the commercial sector or whatever else.
Come on, man. That sounds like a comic book. Like I'm an African prince. I just found out I'm an African prince. They come over here like, oh, he's the prince. I look just like the guy, the statue. Like that sounds unreal.
Okay. Interesting.
Well,
I mean, what would you say?
I do think this. I think that it's possible, but it would be extremely difficult. There would be a lot of road bumps and barriers that you would have to go through. Now, if you're saying just individuals who are on the same wavelength as you when it comes to, building a relationship with the motherland and establishing ourselves in Africa, yes, I think that some people can break through and they can build that relationship and they can have some success over in Africa. But as far as us as a community, it's I think it would take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of resources, a lot of energy before we could get to that point in which we have that type of movement to Africa.
But you guys love Dr. Umar Johnson, right? So, Dave, I heard you've talked positively about Dr. Umar Johnson before. I've heard you talk positively, Rodney, about Dr. Umar Johnson.
But wait a minute, okay. I want to make sure I understand that last question. Okay, so I do a test and I say, okay, I'm making the name John Africa. John Africa.
Internally, you link back to the Bamileke.
Okay, the Bamileke. So I go back to the Africa and I figure out where the Bamileke are and I meet them. What am I expecting to get from them?
We already know the Bamileke are.
Okay, so I go back there and I meet them. So now what am I expecting to get from them? Like I can't make them do anything.
Not to get anything from them.
And what would they
learn?
And I think over time you potentially could. The first thing you would have to do is take the time to understand them, understand their culture, maybe even tackle their language, and understand the environment as well that they're in, and learn more about your ancestors' history. And that would take a ton of time. And then I think as time progresses, you may be able to move towards creating different economic opportunities and building business relationships and kind of go from there. It just would take a lot of time.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think I didn't say the question correctly. I didn't have the question written down, so I'll try again. Do you think knowing that you came from something great in Africa is going to affect you in a positive manner?
Oh, yeah. Of course. like honestly, to be honest with you, before any of this DNA test stuff, I always thought I had to come from something great in Africa. Like, and that's just my own cockiness, my own what's the word we're talking about, the dude? Uh, my memory is going crazy. Narcissism. That's my own narcissism, right? So yeah, and if I get some type of assurance that yeah, you definitely came from some type of African line of warriors that were, you know, intelligent and all this stuff, like, yeah, I knew it all along. Pop my collar, whatever, you know. That's always something good. When you find out you came from something great, that's always a good thing. That's a pride thing.
Yeah. So in saying that, Dave, like knowing that the Bamileke say that they are from Egypt, how does that make you feel?
The little bit of information I know about ancient Egypt and all of their successes, the things that they created, the knowledge that they had and passed on, that definitely boosts my confidence. And it also makes me want to learn more, not only about the Bamileke tribe, but also more about Egypt. And, gain a better understanding of its history. And I think that would even further boost my own self-confidence.
You think it'd be good for your children too?
Absolutely. Because here in America, we're confined to the history that Big Brother tells us is, and for them to have an opportunity to learn more about where their ancestors came from, to learn about our past success throughout world history, it would do wonders for them. And honestly, I think it's imbued upon us to ensure that our children understand this, and they understand it to a level better than we do,
Yeah. So you guys know when the French, I forget which conflict it was. It was Napoleon though. When he was in Egypt, he took like 140 scientists with him. He took 140 people there to analyze. He marched through with his army. They stayed for a couple of years, and the scientists actually stayed there a few years after that because they were collecting all this data about ancient Egypt. Okay, if ancient Egypt was black, what would you not do to hide the birthright of a people from them if you knew that you had enslaved these people, wronged these people, and that your whole wealth system was built off the oppression of these people? What would you not do at that point to pretty much hide them or keep them from their birthright? The knowledge of who they actually were.
Nah, that's a good point, especially if you're looking to stay on top and maintain your superior status. You're going to do
and protect your children. You have to be able to protect your children because make sure they don't get any type of retribution.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that's why I look at it like, I know it sounds crazy as hell. Like it sounded crazy as hell to me just a few months ago. Like me knowing that Egypt was black and me knowing that, Egypt was great, but me not knowing I had any connection to it. But yeah, the Bamileke probably did come from Egypt. Else why would they say it? Why would so many of their words be the exact same words that were used in ancient Egypt?
And this is white people and members of the Bamileke tribe cooperating this. So,
and if you guys watch this video, I'm gonna send this video afterwards. It's about the Dogon tribe. The Dogon knew things. They knew things that they were not supposed to know. Period. There's about 400,000 Dogon, and mostly in Mali, Burkina Faso, those countries. And they live far, far outside of any large city or something like that. But they have knowledge about astronomy, about micromatter that other people just don't have, even to this day. You have scientists that are going there, getting information from these people, and then coming back and say, damn, how did they know that? And they say they came from Egypt.
Right.
And there's so many of their words in their lexicon that are the exact same as the words they're used in Egypt. As a matter of fact, they're saying, okay, we think they were in Egypt before, the dynastic period. We think the Egyptians that are there, or even the ancient Egyptians got their language from the Dogon. So it sounds crazy as all heck, but it's not, man. Like, we come from something great. We are our own group of people here. We've been through a very common experience of slavery, which kind of binds us together. We've been oppressed together. And now it's time to realize who we are. If you want to stay here, which 99% of people, I'm sure they just want to stay here, that's fine. But just realize who you are. Just dig a little bit. It doesn't, and even if all this shit was false, life is nothing but a system of beliefs. So why are you going to believe some shit that does not benefit you in the least bit?
Right. Okay, man, that's a good point. I gotta get ready to go off the call because I'm over here with my family. But let's talk about this one again. We're gonna need to pick this back up and some of that information. Make sure you put that video on there too because I want to check that out. But yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good point to end on for me. But I love you guys. I'm gonna get back in here and help my mother-in-law with something real quick.
All right, bro. We love you.
All right, man. All right, David. All right, bro.
Love you.
Love you both.
Yeah, Dave. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stop the video here. Hold the line for just a second. Hey, thank you for viewing this video. Like and subscribe. Also, like and subscribe to the Tell It Like It Is channel, because half of the time we're over there doing videos, the other half of the time we're here. But who's ever out there watching, thanks for staying with us this long. We're gonna put some more good content out, have some good conversation, and we'll bring in other people also, from other places, other countries. And I just appreciate everybody. Hey, believe in yourself, be free. Take it from me. Do something great today. Take that first small step. Open up a book about the motherland. Open up a book about what's happening in America or someplace else. Let's learn about each other and let's build from there. Signing off.